So, overcoming the fear of prospecting. So common, and a lot of times we all have our own reasons as to why we feel like we can't do something, or we put something else ahead of it because we feel like it's more important. But what we know to be true is that prospecting is the lifeblood of this business. And so if you're not making your calls or sending your text messages or doing something to connect with those that you know, that you love, that you want to be in a relationship with, then your business is going to reflect that in the form of there will be no business. So prospecting, the entire goal behind that is to generate opportunities that we can then transform into transactions. So it's very important that we talk about it today. And we're going to kind of go through some tips and ideas and hopefully change your perspective a little bit when it comes to prospecting and how to make it a priority. So as always, I like to start with our mission and our vision because one, it's so very important that you guys understand what we're about. But then secondly, it's as important that it gets you thinking about what your mission is and what your vision is as it relates to both your whole life, but also to your business. And you guys have heard me say this too, but one of the most powerful things I think that my own accountability coach, David, has ever said over and over and over to me and to our groups is the most important thing that you can invest your time in is a life vision for yourself. Because with that vision comes an enormous amount of clarity. And when you have clarity, it is so much easier to create a path or a plan in order to get you toward your goals or reaching those goals. So when you're trying to come up with a mission for yourself or a vision for yourself, what it does is it forces you to simplify it. It forces you to sort of condense it down into one or two statements about what you want in your life, what you want in your business, and then what do you see, what do you envision in order to make that mission turn into something that is a reality for you. So our company mission is to empower you. Our whole purpose, everything, every decision that we make, every choice that we make, always goes back to this mission. So we want to be able to empower you and create opportunities so that you guys can live your version of an abundant life. And abundant meaning more than enough, right? Everybody has a different picture of what this looks like for them, but once you know what it is that you want and why you want it, that is going to be the thing that drives the decisions that you make and the choices that you make day in and day out. So our vision then, how do we support that mission? We aspire to be the home for ethical people, people who are what we would call high-minded, motivated, professional people who are committed to achieving not only what they want in their personal life, but also in their professional life as well. So when you think about the mission, the vision, the values have to come into play as well. And again, these are company values, but they're designed to get you thinking about your own. So what are your values and what are those principles that you stand firm on that everything else sort of stems out from underneath? And of course, the beliefs. And beliefs are so very important. Y'all have heard me say this 1,000 times, but beliefs absolutely influence every choice that we make, every thought that we have, every direction that we go in stems from some pre-existing belief that we have. So that's why we put such an emphasis on our company beliefs and our core beliefs, our beliefs as they relate to buyers, as they relate to sellers, as they relate to running a business. Beliefs matter. And so the one that's highlighted in red is the one that's most important today, and that is we believe there's no growth without discomfort. And a lot of people are very uncomfortable when it comes to prospecting. So this is a good thing to talk about. So hopefully what we're going to talk about today is a way to view prospecting in a different light. Something that's not scary, something that is just part of your daily routine. Okay? So here's what we know. Agents who dedicate 5 or more hours a week, okay, just 5 in a week, make more than $200,000 a year on average. Okay, and this information comes from a survey where a poll was done on more than 3,000 realtors across the country. Okay, so $200,000 a year on average just by dedicating 5 hours out of your entire week to prospecting. So if you're somebody who likes to structure the majority of your work week, Monday through Friday, we're talking about 1 hour a day. One. And maybe you didn't get to do it one day, then you do 2 hours the next, and that's still very much attainable. Okay, so let's talk about follow-up, right? Here's some good things to know. Agents, on average, they follow up between 3 and 5 times, and that's being very generous. A lot of times, I would argue that they're not following up at all. And you've probably come across this in different conversations that you've had with different people from the public or people who are interested in creating a relationship with a realtor for whatever reason. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for returning my call. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to get somebody to return your call, right? That's what this is talking about. So how many times does it take to follow up consistently where it's going to make that positive impact on your income? The number is 5, and I would say that's conservative. These days, I would say that's probably closer to 7 or 10. 7 or 10 times. When I made this was about the fall of last year, I would say it takes more than that. So 5 times, and what I love about this too, if you've ever taken our For Sale by Owner class, this is the number that class is built on. So it's making an attempt once a week for 4 weeks, and then on the 5th week, you continue to make phone calls. So there is some magic when it comes to the number 5, but the point is that's how many times you need to connect with someone before you can expect any kind of impact to your bottom line, okay? And here's the other part, right? A lot of times people are like, well, I talked to so-and-so, but it was probably 6 months ago, and then they listed with someone else. Of course they did, because they haven't heard from you since 6 months ago. So it takes that regular connecting, that regular outreach in order to really see the difference. Okay, so let's talk about the struggle, right? Because it is. For some people, prospecting every day is a struggle, but why? Why is it such a struggle? Yeah, it's uncomfortable. And another reason is they can't decide who to call, right? They're just kind of stuck in their day and they're not sure who to even try to connect with. So a simple solution would be to take a look at what the common lead sources are, or the sources in which you feel like the majority of your opportunities are going to come from. And the first one being your database, right? Or your network or your sphere, whatever it is that you call it in your business, that is perfect soil, perfect ground to really cultivate those relationships. Because what we know is 80% of the transactions that were completed last year came from that database, came from that network or that sphere. Side note, Boosh launches in Texas September the 3rd. Yay! And so what you guys can be doing right now to be completely prepared is to add every single person that you know, who you worked with, who you have connected with, who you've met, put them in an Excel spreadsheet. If all you have is their first name, their last name, their email, or phone number, that's fine. It doesn't have to be a super robust list. It just needs to have your people in it so that when it launches on the September the 3rd, you can upload them right in there and you'll be way ahead of the game. Okay. So another source is a farm. If you guys are doing any kind of geographic farming where you target a neighborhood in an attempt to generate more opportunities, that's where potential opportunities can come from that you can call on. Open houses are another good source. And then of course your online networks. So prospecting, I think too, people think it has to be a phone call. It does not have to be a phone call. It can be a text message. Vivian Todd, that is the only prospecting that she does. She text messages all of the people in her phone regularly, and it's not even about real estate. It's, hey, how are your kids doing? Are they getting ready for back to school? Hey guys, how's it going? I saw your grandkids were playing in the football game the other day. Congrats on the win. That is all she does, and she is mega successful. She's a master at relationships. It could be an email. It could be a pop by. It could be any combination thereof. The point is doing something to connect with someone who falls into any of these categories or maybe outside of these categories. So what you could also do is take a look at the people who do fall into these categories or are on these lists and then reach out to them accordingly. So you want to know who your advocates are. You want to know who your top tier advocates are. Who are your A people, your B people, your C people? once you know that, it's a lot easier to break it out into manageable lists so that you can do it every day. Any questions on this?
No, you got me wanting to pull up my Excel spreadsheet and keep adding people while I'm thinking about it because I'm like, I haven't updated that.
Right. Okay, so another reason why they don't do it, they don't know what to say, right? I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to sound salesman-y or pitchy or any of those types of things. So put very simply, this is also the fear of rejection. That's what that means. So a good solution would be to know what you want to accomplish before you reach out to someone. So in other words, be prepared. Have a purpose, have a reason for reaching out to them. The examples that I just shared with Vivian, she's absorbing what her sphere, what her network is doing through social media or when she's out or when she's visiting with friends, and she's gathering all of these little nuggets so that she can follow up with them by saying, hey, how are your kids doing? How are your grandkids? How did the football game go? She's using those little things that are out there already, and she's just building upon them. So she's always got a purpose for the reach out, for the outreach. Okay? Going into it unprepared is going to make you fumble. It's going to make you feel like, okay, just wanted to say hello, okay, bye. Like, you got to have a purpose. And we talked about that quite a bit in our expired listings class, our first sell by owner class, our 33 touch program class. We always talk about having that intent to do something. It can make all the difference. Okay, number 3, why is it such a struggle? Lack of a plan. You know, how many do I need to contact? How often do I need to contact them? So this is the struggle of the right time to call versus the feeling as to why you should call. And again, when I say call, this can be call, email, text, pop by, all of the above. So solution, right? Create a prospecting plan every day. And then most importantly, stick to it. You can call a set amount of people from each of those lead sources around the same time every day. Put it on your calendar, put it in your planner, make a reminder on your phone, set an alarm. Anything that you'll respond to, just remind yourself to do it, because that way you're creating time to solely focus on building your business on a daily basis. For me, when it comes to any kind of prospecting that I'm doing in a recruiting space, I just this week added a time block onto my calendar from 3 to 4 where I solely focus on outreach for new potential agents to join our company. When I was in my former life, when I was doing commercial leasing, that was one of many responsibilities. And for me, I carved out from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. to prospect and was 3 times as more productive than the person who had 8 hours a day to do it. So I think when you also block time, it forces you to be productive in that amount of time because you know that's all you have for that day.
Can I ask from your experience, did you feel like, I know you said you did 4 to 5, did you feel like that was the better time of day because maybe their day was wrapping up? Do you feel like maybe that's something that we should experiment with, try it in the morning, or you know what I mean? Like
I think definitely experiment with it. Yeah. For me, when I chose 4 to 5, it was more of an accident. I would say because the majority of what I was responsible for at the time was property management and marketing. And so that was probably 60% of what I had to do. And so I put that 4 to 5 block as the last hour of my day because I knew that I was able to take care of everything else prior to the end of the day. And if I didn't, then I would have to put those things off until the next day. And so for me, that's the time that I had, that's the time that I used. Yeah. For you, it may be very different. You know, you could try 1 week calling in the morning, see how that goes. The next week, if you weren't very pleased with it, try the lunch hour. Yeah. And then just kind of move your way through the day until you find a time that works where you're being able to connect with more people.
Yeah, because I think I like to do things in the morning because that's how I move. But I think that's also when other people are trying to get everything accomplished. You know what I mean?
Like go through their to-do list.
Yeah, exactly. So I hate to be bothering them or get shut down and not going to have a good back and forth.
I do think experimentation with that is good. And I think also good advice would be to know when you are most in your rhythm, when you are at your best, when you're at your peak times. For me, usually around now, is when I really start moving, where my brain feels fully awake and I can start and do what I want to do. And I continue that momentum until about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then things kind of
That's
slow
what I was
down.
thinking in the afternoon. I'd hate to be,
For me though, what I will say, when I had that 4 to 5 block in my former life, it did allow for a lot of the day's noise to go away, because I knew that I'd already done it. I knew that I was kind of getting toward the end of my day. I closed my door and I just went deep on my prospect list and my research, and it allowed me a lot more focus than I think if I would have tried to fit it in the middle of the day, in between things that I was trying to do with property management and marketing.
Yeah, no, I get that too.
Okay, so struggle. Why? Another reason, the environment isn't set up for prospecting. It's just not. So this is a really good picture, I think, that really kind of shows that. Solution then, find a quiet place where you can concentrate and then give 100% of your own focus to what you're trying to do. I kind of just mentioned this too. I closed my door into my office and I just went in. And you have to. You need that space to think. You need to kind of work through possible scenarios. You need to be able to think through what it is that you're wanting to say, to really go in there and be confident with the outreach.
I think, and doing my office, I knew it already, but getting it done, I mean, it's made me a John Buff much happier. But I would say taking it a step further, having it all organized to some form of that too, because it almost like quiets the mind as well.
It does.
You know what I mean? When you have it all easily accessible, know where it is to grab if they have a question.
100%.
Oh, so I'm so excited about it.
Good. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, because my mind is as loud as my mouth.
Okay. Another reason, personal psychology isn't aligned to be able to prospect. So what does that mean? It's what we tell ourselves. It's how we feel that day. Focus, the questions that we're saying, what do I need to do today? What's going on in my world today? What would I rather be doing? All of that noise can really, really negatively affect the way in which we approach our prospecting and the way that we approach getting it done. And so solution, rather than thinking of everything else that's on the list or prospecting, ask yourself this question: how can I positively impact my clients today, or the people that I'm in a relationship with today, regardless of if they do business with me or not? Make that the question that you ask yourself, and I guarantee you your entire mindset will shift from having to do something to getting to do something, and seeing that as, okay, how can I positively make a difference for somebody? How can I do that today?
Yeah.
You'll be so surprised at how much more you're going to accomplish just from that simple question. Okay, so how do we create that unstoppable psychology for prospecting? The first one is that there are plenty more reasons to prospect than not. So you want to make a list of all the positive benefits that come with prospecting. Number one, hello, it builds your business. That is the goal, right? That's why we do it. So plant the seeds, cultivate them, so nurture the relationship, regularly connect with those people, and then you're going to reap the benefit, or you will see the harvest, okay? So I love this. I think this is something that all of us can easily identify with. And what I love about this too is that, when you plant that seed, the flower doesn't come up that same day. It takes nurturing or cultivating what you've planted, okay? So planting is just the beginning. And that's why when people are like, yeah, but I talked to them last year, or I helped them buy a house 2 years ago, and then they went with someone else. My next question would be, well, when's the last time that you were able to connect with them? When's the last time that you were able to talk to them or see them? Oh, well, probably, around that same time. Of course then, because someone else has planted that seed. Someone else has cultivated it, and now someone else got the harvest from it, right? So that's what this is speaking to. Secondly, you need accountability. Accountability is so wonderful because it helps us take action more easily. So creating massive accountability to act, and this kind of goes hand in hand with pain versus pleasure, not in a creepy way. So think about it like this. When you're not taking action every day, what you're essentially doing is writing a check to your competition and writing a check to someone else who does what you do. Because if they're out there prospecting and they're out there cultivating these relationships, then guess what? That's less of a chance for you to do the same thing because that person has already been nurtured, right? So that's what we talk about. Very painful when we're writing a check to someone else, but very pleasurable when that check is coming to us, okay? Next, how do we create that unstoppable psychology for prospecting? Celebrate it every time you do it. People do this differently. Me, I get a ton of gratification from checking that box or crossing it off my list. Other people need a little bit more, whether it's I'm going to go to Starbucks and get my favorite coffee, or I'm going to go and have a little tiny candy bar. Whatever works for you, celebrate every time you do it, because then you'll feel good about it. You should feel good about it. It's something that is so very important to what we do that you should be able to prioritize it, and you should be able to feel good about it once you've completed your task.
I just usually call you to tell you how I feel about it.
Call me, I will celebrate with you.
I do though. It's funny because life in this business can be there's so many things that are out of your control. So to me, just having something like that you, and I know that I sound like a control freak a lot, but that having something that you have control of, that you know that, okay, I'm putting this out, you know what I mean, and working towards it, is so gratifying to me, even with nothing else, you know what I mean? Just
it is.
knowing that, because I'm one of those people that's like, leave it all on the mat, you know what I mean? So that is, those kind of actions make me feel like, okay, rise or falling, I know that I left it all here today, you know? And
Yes.
rather than being like confused and not know where to start, you know what I mean?
Agreed. And I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head and shared a point that I should have shared, because all of what we teach day in and day out, all of the principles that we believe in and all the beliefs that kind of fuel the different choices that we make, it's all about taking control of your own business. And when you do, you take control of what's important to you. You're not dependent on anyone else. You're not relying, on anyone or any other third party. That's like super covert.
Yeah.
Just like,
Gotta go open a fence before I do that.
Yeah.
Well, don't even forget to ask where it's at.
okay. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about taking control of what we do have control over, because there's so much that we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we always kind of talk about too, I'm glad I did versus I wish I had. It's so much better just to take the action, because then again, another one of our beliefs, if I consistently do the right thing, success is inevitable. No matter what, you will hit that target. It may take a little bit of time, but that's the kind of thing that gives you that sustained success as well. It's not just the, oh, someone shared this lead with me that I don't really know. Great. Maybe you'll be able to kind of cultivate that, but probably not. Yeah. It's much better to take matters into your own hands and go out there and create it for yourself. Correct.
No, I know. And it's easy because this business is a get busy, get slow, get busy, get slow. So to sit there and wait for something to come to you will drive me crazy.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Even if it's not coming right away, knowing that I'm working towards it coming, you know what I mean? It makes it definitely, you feel more accomplished rather than just, like you're saying, passively.
Yeah.
Like, why is nobody calling me just out of nowhere, you know?
That's called being proactive compared to being reactive.
Totally.
So when you're sitting back and waiting, that's also putting you in more of a hostage type position, because you're being held hostage by what someone else or something else may or may not do. Mm-hmm. And so it's so much more effective when you can say, okay, here's what I'm going to do today. And then when you go to bed and you put your head on your pillow at night, you know that you did your part for yourself and for your business. Yep. You didn't rely on anybody else. And I think that's what also makes the victory that much more sweet at the end of the day, whenever you do see it through and it results in something that helps you and your business.
Yeah.
Any questions? Any ahas? Any light bulb moments?
All of it is. But I mean, that's to me just those steps you're saying about being the psychology of it, the psychological mindset is so important to me. That's another one of those things as to why it's so important to be clear, because sometimes you can get in your own head, and just to be able to let it out to somebody who has the same goals as you or wants to see you succeed and bounce it back or redirect your focus, you know what I mean? It's so important. Whereas when you're stuck by yourself and thinking those things, a lot of times you don't have that person to be like, snap out of it. You know what I mean? Or I've gone through that too, and it just kind of calms those fears. But that's important to me, the quietness, and like you're saying, it is important. The quietness and just being organized with it, in mind and body.
Totally, and I think it matters. It's all connected. It really is, and whatever environment. And some people, they can have a million things going on, and that environment suits them.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I need kind of the noise to be diminished a little bit, and not just outside noise. I'm saying this kind of noise, this internal noise, to where I can kind of disconnect from what I was just doing, and then really redirect my focus on to the next thing.
Absolutely.
And so, whatever environment that looks like for you, I think the most important thing is it going to be an environment that makes you first confident, but also comfortable.
Yeah.
You need both to really, go through these motions in a way that you feel like you're setting yourself up to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it.
Okay. Any other questions or feedback? Cool. Okay, so that wraps up the class. I did record it, so we're going to put it into the database in Backagent. So it'll be under class recordings today.